Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Today is the final day of the Mainland's Golden Week, spanning the Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day holidays. Up until Thursday, over 1 million people from the Mainland visited the SAR, but retail spending has been subdued. Mimosa Ngai reports.
West Kowloon Station on Friday morning. Many travellers were about to start their return journeys to the Mainland as the Golden Week comes to an end. The schedule board shows seats on most trains were sold out. This girl was pleased with her trip to Hong Kong. The city is different from the Mainland in multiple ways, including its food and culture, so I found it fascinating, she said. This man who works in the city said his family came to visit over the holiday. I took them to watch the fireworks display in Wan Chai on National Day. My family thought the show was spectacular, he said. The Immigration Department said over 1 million Mainland visitors came to the city between Mid-Autumn Festival and Thursday, a figure similar to predictions by the tourism sector. In addition to visiting tourist attractions, some preferred to drop by local jewelry shops. This general manager of a jewelry retail group said more Mainlanders came to buy items for wedding gifts as a result of the drop in gold prices. However, Annie Yao-Tze said the large number of tourists had not brought about a corresponding rise in retail sales. The chairwoman of the Hong Kong Retail Management Association says it is because of the strong Hong Kong dollar exchange rate and the changing shopping habits of Mainlanders, as many are sightseeing more and buying less. Mimosa Ngai, TVB News.
Mainland Railway authorities said almost 20 million passengers took trains to return home on the last day of the Golden Week. Beijing South Station was filled with travelers and suitcases. Many returned to the capital from different places, such as Shanghai and Tianjin. A similar picture in Guangzhou South Station. People had to queue to reach the metro entrance. Mainland authorities said around 750 million people traveled within the country over the Golden Week. The strong wind signal number 3 is now in force and will remain in effect until at least 4 a.m. Saturday. Winds are expected to strengthen gradually tonight. The observatory has warned the public about issuing the number 3 signal 8 hours in advance. Some lawmakers think accuracy is what's most important.
An autumn typhoon is getting close to Hong Kong. This afternoon, the weather turned cloudier and more gloomy. Strong winds were felt in Victoria Harbour. The observatory has amended the forecast track for Koinu in the evening. For the next 2 days, it will be edging close to the Pearl River estuary and slightly closer to Hong Kong than estimated. Koinu was also stronger than forecast this morning, and its rate of weakening was lower than the observatory had predicted.
Koinu is expected to edge closer to the vicinity of the Pearl River estuary in the next couple of days. The observatory will assess the need for issuance of higher tropical cyclone warning signal based on the intensity and speed of movements of Koinu, as well as the distance of Koinu's associated gales from Hong Kong.
Squally showers are expected in the next few days. Showers will be heavy at times on Sunday and Monday. Today, the observatory warned the public 8 hours in advance of the strong wind signal number 3. F&B sector lawmaker Tommy Chung says it's good to make preparations early, but whenever he sees a storm coming, he knows he'll lose a lot of business. He said the observatory may not have to make a prediction too early if the accuracy is not high.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the latest government's green bonds have been well received by the public. The government said the final issuance amount of the retail green bonds is 20 billion Hong Kong dollars, higher than the target issuance size of $15 billion. Full allocations will be given to the 184,000 applications for 8 or fewer lots. The remaining applications, who applied for more than 8 lots, will be allocated 8 lots each and then entered into a ballot. The green bonds come with a guaranteed interest of at least 4.75%. A 38-year-old man was sentenced to prison for 4 months after pleading guilty to a count of importing a seditious publication. The defendant, surnamed Leung, was charged with importing a seditious publication after the importation of 18 children illustration books to the city in March. The imported books belong to a children's series about sheep, wolves and villages. Chief Magistrate Victor So said the books depict the wolves as the SAR and central governments attempting to distort images of the central authorities. Moreover, the books are targeted at children aged below 4, with attempts of indoctrinating them the ideas of contempt and hatred towards the central or local governments. In Ukraine, 51 people were killed on Thursday when a Russian missile slammed into a cafe and grocery store in a village in the northeast of the country. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the incident was a deliberate attack on civilians and no blind strike. Meanwhile, Russia launched new drone and missile strike on Ukraine early on Friday, killing a 10-year-old boy in the northeastern city of Kharkiv. Tracy Fannis has more.
Large piles of bricks, shattered metal and building materials strewn around where the cafe once stood. It was where 60 people had gathered for a wake after a funeral when the Iskander missile struck. This man's father was in the cafe at the time. I was at work. I received a call and was told that a rocket landed where my father was. Then I came here to see what was happening, he said. 7 people were wounded and 3 are still missing. The attack was the deadliest in Kharkiv region since Russia's invasion of Ukraine 19 months ago. Rosa had a population of just 500 before the war. It is located near the town of Kupiansk, which was recaptured by Ukrainian forces late last year and is close to one of the war's front lines. Moscow denies deliberately targeting civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called the Russian strike inhumane terrorist attack, adding that Russia does this every day. Zelensky was in the city of Granada in Spain Thursday, holding meetings with European leaders seeking more military aid for Ukraine. He was attending the European Political Community Summit. Zelensky held bilateral talks with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and European Parliament President Roberta Metsola. Support for Europe has become all the more important after the US Congress hastily sent US President Joe Biden legislation over the weekend that kept the federal government funded, but left off billions in funding for Ukraine's war effort that the White House had vigorously backed. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Welcome back to TVB News. The Nobel Peace Prize for 2023 has been awarded to a jailed Iranian human rights activist. The committee in Oslo praised Narges Mohammadi, who they say has fought against the oppression of women in Iran.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2023 to Narges Mohammadi for her fight against the oppression of women in Iran and her fight to promote human rights and freedom for all. Her brave struggle has come with tremendous personal cost. Altogether, the regime has arrested her 13 times, convicted her 5 times, and sentenced her to a total of 31 years in prison.
Mohammadi is currently serving a sentence in a Tehran prison. She is the 19th woman to win the award and the second from Iran. Her husband, who lives in Paris, said the accolade was for women, life and freedom. An Iranian government news agency reported the story, saying Mohammadi received the award from Westerners. The White House is making plans for a face-to-face meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping in San Francisco next month, according to the Washington Post. Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is leading a bipartisan congressional delegation to China next week. Xi Jinping and Joe Biden's last meeting was on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Indonesia in November. The Chinese president did not attend the G20 in India this year. The newspaper says the latest plans for face-to-face talks are pretty firm. California will host an APEC summit next month, and Xi could travel to the conference. High-level politicians from the U.S., including Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, have been to Beijing in the last 6 months. China-U.S. relations deteriorated after Washington shot down what they said was a Chinese spy balloon earlier this year. 7 people were arrested for suspected credit card theft on flights after spending over $600,000 with the cards. During the operation, police seized multiple credit cards. Receipts were also found. The police had received reports from 8 travelers in the past 2 months saying they had lost their credit cards in airport. After investigation, the police targeted at a syndicate that is responsible for a series of in-flight theft and held an operation on Wednesday. The force said the group would open the suitcases of flight passengers to look for credit cards when they were resting. The group would then use the stolen cards to buy alcohol in a wine shop in Tsim Sha Tsui. Over $620,000 was spent. The 7 suspects have now been arrested for suspicion of theft and obtaining property by deception. Some 300 government jobs are up for grabs, including administrative offices. Up until 5 p.m., some 16,000 people have applied. That means 1 in 50 people are fighting for each position. In the past, assistant clerical officer, clerical assistant, and grade 2 personal secretary were only open for applications every 2 years. From today onwards, it will be up for grabs all year round. A recruitment center has been set up in Wan Chai. Secretary for Civil Service Ingrid Young inspected the operation of the center today. She said the government needs to hire 2,700 people altogether and hopes that at least 75% of the vacancies can be filled. She also stressed not a lot of civil servants have quit, but the number of retirees is pretty high. The 3-day Saudi Aramco Team Series is now underway at Fanling Golf Course, drawing participants and fans from around the globe. This is the first international tournament to be held in the golf course after the government recalled parts of the site.
Over 100 golfers from around the world, including the US, Spain, the Netherlands and South Korea, were at the Fanling Golf Course on Friday. They are competing in the Hong Kong leg of the Saudi Aramco Team Series. The overall winner of the series will take home a $100 million. The first round was held at 8 a.m. today. Visitors who have made prior online registrations were able to watch for free. This visitor from Guangzhou is traveling in Hong Kong and made time to catch a glimpse of the tournament. He said, "We normally watch these matches on TV, and it's rare for us to see an event with such class in person, which is a positive influence on the kids as well." Many spectators use their phones to capture world-class golfers playing on the famed course. The final round is set for 7:30 a.m. Sunday. Those who wish to watch over the weekend will need to buy a ticket. Meanwhile, there are also booths for children to try playing golf.
So the Aramco Team Series really is the pinnacle of the Ladies European Tour. We play at fantastic golf courses, and Hong Kong Golf Club is no exception. Guests who've come from the Greater Bay Area for the event, we've had quite a lot of interest from that area. This is the first international event that has been staged in this part of China for a few years, since pre-COVID, so everyone's very excited to see golf come back. We do have guests here from Middle East, from Europe, North America. It's a really international mix of guests.
Jones said there are already 3,500 tickets registered online for these few days, and she's confident matches played during the weekend will attract more audience.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.